How are you, traders? How are you, Bitcoiners? How are you on this fine Saturday? I hope you're all enjoying your weekend. I hope you're enjoying your Saturday. It might be wee hours of the morning for you, depending upon where you are in the world. Afternoon, evening, early evening. It's early evening for me. But I hope you're doing well. I hope I'm not intruding too much on your time, on your personal time. But guys, if you can't ever, first of all, I appreciate all of you who managed to just pop in on my live sessions without any forewarning, without any planning, and that is just extraordinary to me, and I'm blown away by that. So thank you. But obviously, every single live session that I do does become a permanent electronic footprint on all of the platforms. Um, and so you can always catch this if you can't catch it live, and you'll always be able to. Um, you'll be able to watch it more than once should you find that useful. But thank you for joining. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for popping in live. I like the live interaction that we get here, so it's highly appreciated. Very quickly, let me know where you're coming in from. I like to wait till we get about 300 or 400 people logged on. We've got 223 right now. So in the meantime, why don't you, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Michael, I truly appreciate that. Thank you. Let me know where you're piping in from. What is this? Oh, awesome. Thank you. Guys, thank you so much, Lucas. Your generosity is blowing me away here. I love it. Thank you so much. All right, so where are we coming in from? Whoa, first time catching me live. Congratulations, you hit the jackpot. All right, cool. So I see Concord, New Hampshire in the house. Boston. All right. That's interesting. Yeah, for trading says, well, this is my college education for investing, so I will try my best to attend live. Awesome. Nice. All right. India is in the house. Orlando is in the house, guys. Ecuador is in the house. Wow. All right. So India, Ecuador, Orlando, India, Las Vegas. Wow. I'm looking at your comments here, by the way. Whoa. Nice. Dallas, North Carolina, Boston. Yes. Houston, Long Island, Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, I'll be there very, very soon. Durham, North Carolina, Virginia. Brooklyn's in the house. All right. Yeah. You're from Brooklyn. Okay, cool. Yeah. That's where I'm from, guys. Brooklyn, New York. That's right. Tampa. Hamburg, Germany. Yeah. Fantastic. It's going to be a little difficult for our Europeans to sort of pipe in at this particular time. So appreciate anyone from that part of the world. They are burning the candle by both ends, as it were. But I love it, guys. Puerto Rico's here. Singapore. Wow. Singapore's in the house very early. Morning there. I love it. Fantastic. Okay, guys. So today, I wanted to talk about higher education, Bitcoin, and leaving behind a legacy for our little ones, our loved ones. If you are familiar with my work, even over a short period of time, you've probably come to realize that I believe that Bitcoin is freedom. I believe that Bitcoin is the first thing that humans have ever had access to in mass that has the ability to give our bloodline lasting qualities. I believe that Bitcoin has the ability to give in mass all humans the possibility for generational wealth, and generational wealth and freedom sort of go hand in hand. And so this is why I'm constantly, people, pounding the table on a Bitcoin only stance, despite the fact that I'm constantly being bombarded by comments and suggestions that one should diversify into other things, and why can't there be other cryptocurrencies that can work, and why shouldn't I play a variety of things like the stock market and Bitcoin or what have you. And the reason why I'm very, very, what should I say? I'm very stubborn about this, guys. I'm very adamant about a Bitcoin only stance at this particular time, is because our window of opportunity to grab this freedom technology, this generational wealth technology, this thing that has blessed all of us with the ability to change the nature of our last name, to change the nature of our bloodline for generation after generation. This was the possibility that was only for a very small, was only available to a very small portion of the human race. And now for the first time, it is available to every single human being on earth. But the window of opportunity to seize that is not very, it's not open very big, and it's not open very long. And so it was very possible to get tens of thousands of Bitcoin in the early days for a few dollars, right? Then that window closed. Then it was possible to get thousands, not tens of thousands. That was out of the question for the majority of people. Then it became possible to grab thousands of Bitcoin for a few dollars. And then that window closed. And then there came the era where it was possible to get hundreds of Bitcoin for a few dollars. And that window's closed. And then we moved to an era where it was possible to get one Bitcoin, not hundreds anymore, but one Bitcoin for a few dollars. And that window closed. Now, most of the human race is locked out of one Bitcoin. They can't possibly get to a place of getting one Bitcoin. $70,000 Bitcoin locks out the majority of all human beings on planet Earth from ever having a hope of one Bitcoin. So one Bitcoin's window has already closed. This will go all the way to half a Bitcoin, that window will close. Quarter of a Bitcoin, that window will close. 1/10 of a Bitcoin, that window will close. And we're not talking about in generations it's going to close. It's going to close year by year, certainly quarter by quarter, certainly cycle by cycle. Every 4 years, Bitcoin outprices two of those levels, outprices most people out of two of those levels. So with this disappearing, when I call Bitcoin a disappearing asset, it's from two angles. It's literally disappearing, because every time I accumulate Bitcoin, it's gone forever. I'm not the only one who's socking it away forever. Do you understand? So it's disappearing. It's disappearing through loss. It's disappearing through the OVs of the world, accumulating it in a fashion where it will just never be available to the public again. And so it's disappearing, literally itself disappearing. But on top of that, the opportunity to grab this in any sufficient way that will mean something for your children's children's children, that's disappearing as well. And so why would you divert attention away from that to put it on something that is going to be with you forever in abundance? But Oliver, the stock market. Dude, the stock market is not going anywhere. You understand? You will forever have the stock market. You will not forever not have this opportunity. You will forever have a shit coin. They make them by the dozens per every 10 minutes. You have no time for that bullshit. Your opportunity for generational wealth, for owning a piece of all the world's value. Do you understand where Bitcoin is going? Because I don't think you do. I don't think the majority of people really understand that, guys, all of the world's value will ultimately wind up inside of Bitcoin. And so the percentage of the network that you own right now, which no one can change, will be the percentage of all the world's value that you own. That is where I believe Bitcoin is going. That is a true Bitcoin standard. That is a true Bitcoin. That is a true world where Bitcoin is the base layer of value, the base layer of money. And so think about this. If you could get yourself to a place like Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy has done, where they own 1%, let's say, I'm going to round here, it's a little bit more, but they own 1% of the entire Bitcoin network. That means that ultimately, if my vision is true, and I believe it is, that Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy will own 1% of the entire world. Do you understand that if I'm right, and I believe I am, you don't have time to fool around with things that are going to always be with you? But Oliver, I might be able to make more than Bitcoin goes up. You still don't get it. That's not the freaking point. That's never going to get you owning a percentage of the entire world. That is just going to get you a few extra dollars. We're beyond this now. We're beyond making a few extra dollars. We're talking about owning a piece of the world. That 1% of the entire world that Saylor's MicroStrategy owns right now, no one can debase that. No one can do anything to make that 1% half of 1% or 3/4. It's not like you can issue more Bitcoin and dilute that 1%. That 1% is permanent forever, for all of eternity. Whatever my percentage is, no one can change that. I look at it that way, that I am, every time I add Satoshis to my overall Bitcoin stack, I am owning just a little bit more of the entire world's value. And that world's value will continue to grow forever. It's mind-boggling when you approach it this way, that you're purchasing the world. When have you and I been given the ability to own the world? But Oliver, these meme coins. Talk about educational level. You know what I'm saying? We don't have time. We've got to gobble up as much of the world right now as possible, because what is your $100 DCA going to do at $600,000 Bitcoin? I mean, it's not nothing, and anything is better than nothing, but that $100 is a lot more now, without you depleting the effort by, I'm going to put a little bit in Dogecoin, I'm going to put a little bit on this bullshit over here, and you're missing the opportunity to own a little bit more of the entire world. This is the clearest indication possible that you haven't quite understood what Bitcoin really is. It's the world. Some of you might be saying, I think this dude has gone off his rocker. But no, I haven't, guys. I haven't. This is a law. You can't stop value from flowing to the most secure thing. No human being can stop that. No human being can stop value from ultimately seeking out the safest, most secure thing for that value. The hardest money, the hardest assets always attract the largest amount of value. And no human being can stop it. It's just a natural law that the hardest, the soundest, the most secure thing receives it all of it, all of it. So I hope you understand why I am a stickler for Bitcoin only. I'm not saying that there's not going to be some point in the future where you can do something else. I'm just saying that point is not now. You know, that point is not now. Nothing else. All right. That's my little monologue before we get tied into the main. So we start tackling the main topic here today: higher education, Bitcoin, and leaving behind a legacy for our children. Now, I made a post on X earlier today, got a little bit of pushback, but not much. A lot of support regarding the post as well, a lot of agreement. And the post I made was that, you know, I believe that, and for those of you who don't follow me on X, I'd like to show this post to you who might be on this session live right now. But let me do that now, if I may. Let me just show it to you very quickly. Here we go. And I will bring up, this was the post here. And so, you know, my message was that college may be a complete waste of time for your children. And, you know, I understood right off the bat that this was going to rub some people who've dedicated most of their lives to acquiring a higher education the wrong way. Or I knew that, you know, some people who've spent an inordinate, an obscene amount of money putting their children through higher education is going to feel a certain way, maybe not so positive about this post. And I also felt that, you know, I would get some flack from individuals who are currently right now paying off enormous amounts of debt, having gotten higher educations. And all of these groups, obviously, it's very difficult to get these groups to sort of see a point like this because they're invested in this point. They're invested in this. You know, they're indebted by this. It has to be the right thing, right, Oliver? So what I'd like to do, if I can, is I'd like to explain a little bit in detail what I actually mean by the fact that I believe that higher education today, college education, university educations, are largely a waste of time. And guys, this comes from a very educated person. I am not speaking from someone who has not had a higher education. I am not speaking from someone who has not gone to some of the best schools in the United States. I have. And so I want you to understand that I'm not poo-pooing this because I never experienced it. I experienced education in the United States at the highest level that you can experience it at. So don't think that. But what I'll have to do, if you don't mind, is I'll have to take you on, I hope, what will be a brief journey of my formative years up until now. I'll try to make it as brief as possible, and then you'll understand. And I believe it was my last live session. I spoke about an assignment that was given to my our sixth grade class by my sixth grade teacher. Her name was Miss Nardiello. I'll never forget her. She was a very special teacher for me. And she sent us home over the weekend with an assignment. The assignment was for us to come back on Monday morning with our personal definition of what success was. And what she explained was that success is ethereal. It is not something that you can literally define because it means something different for almost every person. And she wanted to demonstrate that by having all of us come back on Monday to show how everyone had a different definition of what they believed the current moment in their lives, their sixth grade year old lives, as to what success was. So anyway, Monday comes around and we have to stand up when she calls our name and to give the response. But what I want to tell you about this assignment was I went home over the weekend and I realized how difficult this assignment really was, because what it forced me to do was to look around my whole life. And as I began to consider, well, wait a minute, what is success? The first instinct was to go find someone, at least in my mind, that I knew of that had success, that was successful, at least based on what I felt success was. And I realized on that weekend, people, that I couldn't find a single soul. The first people you look toward is your parents. And as amazing as my parents were for me, my parents weren't my idea of success, not even as a sixth grader. I did not strive to be my parents. I strove to exponentially outstrip my parents. So my parents did not fall into the category of success in my sixth grade year old mind, nor did any neighbor that I knew, nor did any relative that I have. And so I realized over this weekend that I didn't really know anyone from my personal experience that I could literally say, that's the picture of success for me as a sixth grader. But what helped me come up with my definition of what success was remembering a Christmas that my mother could not afford to give me the gift for Christmas that she had promised the entire year. You see, my mother said, Oliver, if you get straight A's the whole year, straight A's, I will get you this thing. It was actually this special pair of skates. Okay. And I got all straight A's. That Christmas morning, I woke up and I went to open the gifts. My mom was there. My dad was there. And as I opened it, I immediately realized that it wasn't what I had worked for my whole year. And almost before I opened the entire gift, I saw my mother's face. And she had a cup of tea in her hands, just like this, watching me open the gift. But I could see the disappointment in her face. And I could see her eyes welling up with tears because she knew that I would be disappointed, that I'd held up my end of the bargain, but I did not get the skates. And as I looked at her, she basically said, Oliver, I'm so sorry. I just couldn't. And that moment, I felt really bad because I didn't want to make my mom feel that way. So I felt guilty for making my mom feel sad at the time. but I had my definition. When I remembered that, okay, I went back to school on Monday and I told Miss Nardiello when it was my turn, Miss Nardiello, my definition of success is never having to say no like my mother did when you really want to say yes. That was my definition of success. Success to me, to this very day, is I want my no's to be real. I do not want to say no when I really want to say yes. I don't want to say no because I can't. When I say no, it's not because I can't. I say no because I don't want to. And to me, that is living life on your own terms. And that is the highest level of success. When your no's are real, they're not lies. They're real. Make your no's real. I never want to have to say no when I really, in my heart, want to say yes. Now, I try to keep this short, guys, but you'll see how this ties in to Bitcoin and leaving a legacy for our children. This theme popped up again in my life. It popped up when I was in college, university, a very, very fine one. And I was infatuated at the time and had been for years with trading financial markets. And so I always tried to structure my college classes much later in the day. I never wanted a morning class because I dedicated my mornings in particular, or as much of the day as I possibly could, to being with the market. My dream was to be a professional trader. So I'm 18 years old. I'm in college. I'm, structuring my classes to be late in the day and even evening classes when I can. I tell you this because what began to dawn on me was the same thing that dawned on me that weekend when I had my assignment, when I was a sixth grader, that I began to look around me at all the people responsible for giving me a higher education and people I did not want to be them. The same way when I was sick, I did not want to be my parents. I did not want to be my neighbors. I did not want to be my relatives. I didn't want to be anyone I knew. And I had the same feeling getting one of the finest educations in the United States. I didn't want to be anybody there. I didn't want to be any one of my professors. I didn't want to be any one of my teachers. I didn't want to be the head of the school. I didn't want to be any of those. And it started to make me feel a certain way. All right. Let's go to the next era. I began trading my own account, still in school. But what I would also do is I would get these assignments. I had built up enough credits in my university education to actually get placed in professional firms for brief periods of time, and mostly on Wall Street. And mostly, for whatever reason, a lot of law firms and a lot of financial firms on Wall Street. And I would get these 2-week assignments, sometimes as much as 6-week assignments. And it was largely dedicated to earning some dollars to throw in my trading account, which I would proceed to lose all of it, then call the agency back up and say, do you have another assignment? No more than 6 weeks, all right? Because I never allowed an assignment more than 6 weeks because my life was dedicated to trading the markets. So I would go on these assignments and I'll tell you guys, and I know I'm being winded here, but it's necessary to lay the groundwork for this. I worked in some of the most prestigious, temporarily on assignment, some of the most prestigious firms on Wall Street, some of the top rated law firms, and some of the top rated financial firms, which eventually became my clients, which is crazy. But anyway, so once again, I began to look around me. Guys, I saw more money during this period of my life than I'd ever seen in my life. Do you understand? I had a payroll assignment that lasted 6 weeks. And part of my responsibility was to help the payroll department come up with the bonus checks that were to be given out to everyone in the firm that year. And this is a crazy story because the responsibility that fell to me, my ultimate responsibility, was to have every single person in the firm come to the payroll department, sign off on their bonus check, and I hand the bonus check to them. It was an amazing task. What made it amazing was that I knew the amount of the check in every single envelope, from the top partners of the firm all the way down to your mid-tier levels. I mean, anything below the mid-tier levels did not get these bonuses. And so I remember, guys, calling up partners, and they're like, who are you? So I'm Oliver Velez. I work in the payroll department. Who? Oliver Velez. I work in the payroll department. I'm calling about your bonus check. It's been here for the last 2.5 weeks. You will have to come down to the office and sign off on it before we give it. It's like, what? Listen, I'm too busy for that. I'm too busy for that. Like, can you just mail it to me? No, sir. I'm under strict instructions that you have to come down to the office and sign off on the check. And he's like, well, can you tell what's the bonus? Annoyed. I said, well, let me check. I would already know, but I had to pretend like I didn't know. Well, let me take a look, sir. Your bonus check this year is $4.9 million, sir. It's like, well, Jesus. All right. Betty, can I send Betty? Can I send my assistant down? She can sign my name. She signs everything for me. I'm like, no, sir. I'm under strict instructions that it has to be you. It's like, oh my God. Just let me just get back to you. I have no time for this right now. Click. I was like, what? This dude's got $5 million and he's upset with me because I'm telling him to come get it. And that blew my mind. But at the same time, I watched their lives and I didn't want it. Despite the more money than I'd ever seen in my life, I did not want their life. To me, that was not success, because they were in that office literally 24 hours a day. I watched them. We had rooms where there were cots, and they would have to roll out the cots because they were on a project or working for some big giant client on a big case, working 24 hours a day, showering in the public bathroom in the office and shit. Yeah, they got their bonus, but I still did not want that. That was not success to me. I don't care how much money it wasn't success to me. And so throughout my life, I had this recurring theme of trying to define what success really was, which I defined, but I couldn't see it. This guy with $4.9 million sitting in an envelope waiting for him to come get it could not come get his $5 million because he was too busy. Why? Was he working on his own terms? No, he wasn't working on his own terms. He He was a prisoner to his client that would not let him leave his desk to go pick up a freaking $5 million check. That's crazy to me. He was too busy working for someone else. I did not want a life like that. I hope I'm not boring you. I'm getting to the point. All right. Great story. I hope so. I know I'm being long here, but I promise you I'm going to make the point. Fast forward to I land my first professional trading job on Wall Street, big Wall Street firm. I get placed on a trading desk. All the desks in the trading area, they fit 8 traders. So every desk was 8 traders, and we're talking floors of traders. And each floor has literally like 300 traders on every floor. Anyway, I'm on a trading desk, and this thing hits me again. I see more money than it put that former experience I had, 4.5 million, I put that to shame. I saw traders bringing in $4 million in an hour. This dude worked for a bonus for $4.9 million an entire year. I've seen dudes make that in an hour. It just took my whole concept of money, fiat money, to a whole brand new level. I've seen people lose $20 million, and it was like, oh, it's no big deal. We'll get it back. Crazy. I looked around over my 6 years on Wall Street, trading every day of my life, every work day of my life, seeing goo-gobs amounts of money just flow. I looked around, and I didn't want to be any of them either. I didn't want to be anyone around me. I'd risen fairly high in my organization. I think I'm comfortable telling you I'm number 2. I never made number with the number 1 trader, but I got number 2. Number 1 trader was crazy. And I looked at this number 1 trader, and I said, I don't want to be him. I didn't want to be the partners. I didn't want to be anybody. It still did not appeal to me. I didn't care how much the money was. To me, that wasn't success. The stress, the addiction, and the loss of humanhood there that I saw, which is something that I didn't want. I didn't want to be like them. I felt outside of that. I was successful, but I still felt outside. I felt like I would never let my daughter marry any of these people. They're terrible, horrible, horrible people. They would steal a penny from your dying grandmother. Do you understand? I just didn't want that. That's not success to me. And so after 6 years, after 6 years, exactly. After 6 years, I decided to leave and start my own firm. Okay. This is in 1994. Now, I'm now going to make the story short. There's no need for me to go into what happened after that, but I will tell you this. Right off the bat, I opened the doors and business flew to me. I was a top trader. My name had gotten around. Firms just became my clients instantly. So I had instant success, right? Now, money is coming in at a rate at this point that even outstripped my dream. I always had big dreams, but the money starts flowing bigger than I ever thought or dreamed. Do you understand? And I realized it was too big for my understanding. I did not know how to handle this amount that was coming in, and I couldn't even slow it down. I couldn't stop it. It just flowed and flowed and flowed. And I realized I need help. My parents did not equip me for this. My family did not equip me for this. I was not taught how to deal this. And I was intelligent enough at that point to understand that I'm going to blow this if I don't really get professional help. So what I did, people, is I made one of the best decisions of my life. I hired an advisory firm, sort of like a financial advisory, money management, life management firm. This firm was run by a couple, a husband and wife, and they became my advisors, my mentors. I'm very young. I'm 25 years old. All right. They're much older. And one of the things, this is where we're coming to the point. They taught me many things, not only about money and safeguarding it, thinking about the future. One of the most important things they taught me was what to do with my children. And this is where I say is the crux of our talk today. It was always very important to me that I did not want my success to end with me. I wanted to be able to pass something on to the next generation, my children. And I'd heard about and read about too many stories where that wealth, that success does not go to the next generation and the next generation. But I wanted to be one of those. I wanted to be one that created a multi-generational legacy. And so what these advisors began to tell me, and this is what I want to share with you. So Oliver, look, we are going, first of all, they told me, I want you to understand that your children, the small ones you have now and the ones you're going to have, you're going to place them in the best educational institutions you can. They told me one thing. Whenever you have the ability to pull them out and take them on a trip with you, take them on a plane, take them to a different country or whatever, or go with you on a business dealing, whatever, you pull them out of that school. They told me there's nothing that they're going to learn with a clock watching teacher waiting for her time to leave inside of this little four-walled box. There's nothing that they're going to learn there that's more important than what they will learn traveling. So you pull them out of school every opportunity you can to travel. A well-traveled child, Oliver, is a much higher human being than a human being that is not traveled. That's the first thing they taught me. Travel was very important. Experiencing multicultures was very important. So at any chance, pull them out. Second thing they taught me was that you start now. What they arranged for me was they helped me set up trust funds for each one of my children. I would drop an initial amount in, and every single week without fail, a certain amount went into those trust funds. Okay? When I had children that were born, the first day they were born, this couple formed the trust fund for that child. And every single week from the day they were born, had something going into their trust funds. Okay. What these things had grown to is just freaking astronomical. Okay. So that's all I'm going to tell you. What I will say is this: what they helped me structure was how to protect their wealth. They told me that, Oliver, your children, by the time they're 18, they will be wealthier than 98, 99% of all people on planet Earth. But they're not going to keep it unless we do the right thing with structuring their trust funds. So get your pens out. Here's what they had me do. Okay. I said, we're structuring the trust funds where at the age of 16, you will sit them down and you will have a talk and reveal to them what the worth or the value of the trust fund is. You do not do this before they're 16 years old. Okay. Well, number one, at this meeting or at this session where you show them and you sit them down and show your kid or your children what they have at the age of 16, you start preparing them from that point onward as to what to do. All right. Now, I was a financial market player my entire life, so that was the relatively easy part. Okay. They structured things in a way where each child would have access to 1/3 of the trust fund at the age of 21. 1/3. So they would have access to 1/3 at the age of 21 years old. This would coincide kind of roughly along the lines of them just about graduating if they happen to decide on higher education and so forth and so on, but 1/3. The second period at which they have access, they would have access to 1/3, another 1/3 at the age of 33. So they would have to go from 21 to 33 without having any more access to withdraw from the trust fund. So get this straight: 21 years old, they have the right to withdraw 1/3. 33, they have the right to withdraw only 1/3. Now you have to imagine that the trust fund is going to grow from that first 21-year-old right to withdraw to probably recouping the 1/3 that they would theoretically pull out and more, but they still, at the age of 33, could only withdraw 1/3. And then the next and final is that they would have access to all of the trust fund at the age of 45. Okay, so you got those years: 21, 33, 45. And so I remember us structuring the trust funds this way and just being curious as to why. And the answer was simple, powerful, powerfully simple. And it was simply that we must protect the money from 2 divorces. So the goal was not to protect the money from them. It was to protect all of the hard work that I put into building this for them. That it was to protect the money from someone else joining the family. Divorces. So what they told me was that, Oliver, listen, the odds that your children will have a divorce is extraordinarily high. You know this. But let's be double safe and let's plan on 2 divorces. And so most people will find a mate in their 20s. I know this is not the case then, but that was the case back then. Most people find a mate in their 20s. And if that doesn't work out, they'll find a mate in their 30s. And if that doesn't work out, there's still not access yet to the full trust fund until they're 45 years old. Now, the reason why 45 was chosen is because if your children don't have their lives together by 45, then maybe they should just deserve to have it not protected at that particular point. So 45 safeguards the money from their stupidity, their youth, the years during which they will likely make the biggest mistakes of their lives. The vast majority of the money is not truly accessible until they're 45, but they get a chance to taste it. Now, these tastes are enough for these tastes at 21 and 33 are enough for life, really. So it's not that they're going without. It's still huge. It's just not all of it. Okay? Now, I tell you all of that. I tell you all of that to say this. My children never, ever had to go to higher education if they didn't want to. Never. That take at 21 would be enough in their cases to live a lifetime. That secondary take at 33, even bigger, and of course at 45. They never had to. Okay? Some chose, some didn't. I have a lot of children. Some chose, some didn't. I tell you all of that to also say this. To this very day, I have not had one child touch the trust fund. Not a single penny. Even though earning the right at 21, even though earning the right at 33, my oldest child is going to be 39. Not one has touched a single penny. Very fascinating. Okay? What this did for them was give them a sense of freedom and independence that allowed them to seek out their passions, what they loved, what they wanted to do with their lives. They could just discover without feeling as though they had this immense pressure on them. Do you understand? They understood that they were wealthy, but they never told anyone. They never talked about it. No one would ever know. And a lot of people feel as though that if they were to set their children up like this, that it would actually, they might go wild. And that's a possibility, but it's not as big a possibility if it's approached correctly as one might think. It actually, in my experience anyway, makes children more measured. And especially if they only have a portion for years. Look, you got this for years. What my children decided to do, the ones that had the right but chose not to exercise the right, was just say, I'm going to try not to touch it. So they had this motivation not to touch their trust fund, to go out and try to make it without dad's setup. They had access to it. But still, there was almost this pride thing of, I don't really need that. I can maybe leave that to my children. That's what I'm talking about. Now, one final thing. This setup I believe is ideal for everybody. It worked wonders for me and my family. Now that we have Bitcoin, this setup is even better. You see, I did not build these trust funds with items that were guaranteed to rise in value every 4 years of the trust fund's existence. There was active management. There were some investments that put holes in the trust fund for 2, 3, 4 years that had to, over time, be recouped. Most of the investments were great, but sometimes there was a bad one. It had to be managed. There was no guarantee there. But with Bitcoin, we now have an asset that is mathematically guaranteed to be more valuable every 4 years, forever. We also have with Bitcoin the ability to time lock it, which is exactly what I had professionals do with my kids' trust funds. They locked the trust fund. They locked portions of the trust fund up. The biggest portion is locked up until they're 45 years old. 1/3 of it's locked up until they're 33. 1/3 is locked up until they're 21. That's time locked money. Bitcoin is time locked money. Do you understand? You can time lock it. With Bitcoin, you can send today 1 Bitcoin to your daughter. Your daughter's 15 years old. You can send, you want her to have a graduation gift at the age of 18. You want that gift to be 1 Bitcoin. You can send her 1 Bitcoin that is time locked to her wallet. She can have a wallet right on her phone. You can send that 1 Bitcoin to her wallet at the age of 15, but it won't hit and be accessible until she's 18. That is called time lock Bitcoin. It's used freaking every day. It's how Lightning Network time locks Bitcoin to open up channels and things of this nature. These are the services, these are the things that will become ordinary, standard things that everyone knows about Bitcoin. There are going to be apps that give you the ability to just say, okay, this Bitcoin I want to send to my son, but I only want it accessible, released, and can be withdrawn. I only want that. That's the on a future date, 2.5 years from now, or 10 years from now, whatever. And the Bitcoin's there, but it's not accessible. It's not unlockable. It's not movable until the date you put there. And so Bitcoin has now given every one of us the ability to send future, to send value in the future, as if we were to take money and put it in a time machine and send it into the future. Unlike anything else, this future is guaranteed to be bigger than now, because Bitcoin mathematically is designed to go up in value every 4 years of its existence. That is a mathematical certainty. And so we can pass on a brighter future to our children today, knowing that 4 years from now, they're more okay. And 4 years from that, they're more okay. And 4 years from that, they're more okay. This is the exact opposite of what our children are experiencing today. Every 4 years, they're poorer through debasement, through monetary debasement. A dollar today buys more than a dollar 4 years from now. So that's poorer. You're working for the same dollar, but you're able to purchase less 4 years from now with the same dollar. Bitcoin flips that on its head. 4 years from now, you can purchase more. And 4 years from that, you'll be able to purchase more. You get richer every 4 years with Bitcoin. You get poorer every 4 years working for money, fiat currency. So hear me out on this, okay? What happens if you're able to give a child a single Bitcoin today, or 70,000, I know it's 70,000, whatever, a single Bitcoin today that you know will exponentially increase every 4 years, okay? Maybe that Bitcoin, by the time 2033 is here, it's $10 million. Maybe it's 8 million, maybe it's 5 million, whatever. All right. But you can send that value into the future. If your child has this guarantee, maybe going to a college, sitting in a room, four walls, being taught by someone who is financially less than they are, which is not bad, but I'm just saying, someone that they're not going to say, I want to be that person. They're not going to say, I want that life. Maybe that stops being so important. Maybe the woke culture that is being fed through these institutions just stop being important at that point. Their future is practically secured. And you can time lock it in a way where even their stupidity can't ruin it very much. What if they could be set up in a way where they just explore what they want to do? They just find out where their deepest passion is. They travel, they build relationships. I don't know, guys. I'm just telling you that it worked for my children. Now, when I say that this higher education in a Bitcoin world becomes kind of useless, I'm not talking about the trained skills that the world still needs, like doctors, surgeons and things of that nature, maybe even engineers. I'm not talking about those pockets. I'm talking about the hundreds of millions that wind up getting mired in debt for taking business administration. What the heck is that? Oh, I'm majoring in English. I majored in English, but I also majored in accounting because I wanted to learn the language of business. But, the fine arts and things of this nature. Plus, in today's digital world today, your children have more books here than any library on any campus could ever have. More information, more knowledge, more wisdom here than anything that a single organization could possibly deliver. Now, I understand that there are some very esoteric, non-academic benefits to being in a university college setting and having that experience. Trust me, I have kids in college. I told you some chose and some didn't. So I understand this. I understand the networking possibilities. I understand the social aspect. I understand that, yes, you can, you know, find a special professor every now and then. Um, develop lifelong friends. Sometimes, if you're in the right university, these contacts and connections can lead to big things in the future. But let me ask you a question. I asked this on X earlier. If you if you could if you had to spend tens of thousands of dollars, in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Hundreds of thousands of dollars, get mired in debt for decades for this, and at the end, you didn't get a diploma. No diploma. No piece of paper to show for it. Nothing. But you finished. Would you do it? Most people that I ask that question to, you know what the answer is? No. So what does that tell you? Are you really after? You got the education, but you wouldn't do it because you didn't get the paper? No, Oliver, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't go $100,000 in debt and I didn't have the paper. So then what is the 100,000 for? Is it for the education that you're telling me is valuable? Or is it for paper? And most have to think and say, Oliver, you know, it's the document, it's important. So I'm like, then you see my point. Hasn't Bitcoin come to teach us that paper is not what it seems? Isn't that the freaking purpose of Bitcoin, to come to teach us that paper is bullshit? Paper money is bullshit. Paper anything is bullshit. The faith behind a piece of paper is BS. You're spending this for a piece of paper. You're not spending it for the education, because the education's here. The knowledge is here. There's no excuse. Because, Oliver, it's really, I think you can really get a higher education in these institutions. No, you can get a higher education right here. You're really camouflaging the real reason. You want a piece of paper. The same way a fiat monster wants the paper money. But Bitcoin is here to show you that paper is, we're leaving the world where paper has value. Value is time, and time stored is Bitcoin. I would rather see families today not mire their children and themselves in debt for a piece of paper, and instead, what if you put that $100,000 into Bitcoin? Now you've got something that every 4 years will reward your child forever. And possibly, if you structure it properly, their children and their children and their children and their children. That's the gift that never stops giving. That's the thing that expands who they are, what they are, every 4 years of their life, mathematically guaranteed. You're giving them a piece of the world instead of putting it in an institution that is going to teach you from books the same thing you can get from this, and charge you enormous amounts for it that could generate generational wealth down the line if you just put that into Bitcoin. and give them the freedom to seek out their own passion. Someone told me, said, Oliver, I just think that, children need guidance. They need structure. I think my child would need structure. To have all that freedom may not be good for my child or whatever. And I think I get this and I understand this. But I think that it comes from the system that we're trapped in. You see, no one has a structured problem for something they're really deeply passionate about. No one says, this is the only thing I want to do with my life right now, but I'm just not structured. No, you're not structured about something that you are doing that you really don't want to do. You're not structured for that. You're not organized because you really don't want to be there. You really don't want to be studying this, but some article said that you higher likelihood of getting a job if you go here. You're not interested. You're not passionate. That's why you're not structured. That's not why you're not on it night and day. No one has a structure problem if they're deeply passionate about something, if they really want to do it. They're not structured. They don't lack structure about their video games. If they're a video game addict, are they? They're very structured about that. They're very dedicated about that. They're very disciplined about their video games if that's what they're passionate about, right? I just think that most of those problems come because they're not free to just explore and find out what floats their boat. You understand? My children today who never took that step are actually doing better. Do you know why? Because it allowed me to stack more Bitcoin. That's one reason, which means more for them, right? So, I don't have to put $200,000 into your university? Boom, Bitcoin. All right. In addition to that, they traveled more, they got more experiences, they built deeper relationships worldwide. They found something to start a business with, and the ones with businesses are thriving businesses, are largely the ones that didn't go to school, because school, this higher education, is designed to really turn you into a corporate worker. It's the feeding ground. It's the minor leagues. It's where the biggest donors of higher educational institutions are corporations. Why do you think that is? Because that's what produces their workforce, right? Now, because the workforce has become more global in nature, now it's harder for the piece of paper to get you what it used to get you, because someone is always just as educated from India or China or Indonesia or Korea or Mexico who's willing to do it for less. And so the piece of paper is losing its luster. It's losing its value. Its value is getting less and less. Bitcoin's value is getting more and more. Anyway, I have my mother, many of you know this story. My mother was an assistant librarian, not a librarian, assistant librarian. All right. And this pretty much meant that I spent most of my life, Monday through Friday at least, in the library, because my mother said, listen, as soon as that bell rings for school, you get out of school and you come right to this library, boy. So I spent from 3:30 every day until 9 p.m. every single night in the freaking library. What do you do in the library? You read. I read every single book in the library, some more than once. My mother got so concerned that I was now bored in her library that she put in paperwork to get transferred to the town's biggest library, which took about a year and a half. And then she was in the biggest library, and I had to spend my time there. And I started putting dents in virtually everything I could read there. What do you do in the library after you finish your homework? What do you do? You read. I was a voracious reader. Today, I have more, I'll show it to you. I have more books in this than all the libraries my mother ever worked for. Do you understand? I got more books in this. I got books here. 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 Do you understand? No institution can compete with me. I don't need them to become educated in anything unless it's a specific task. Do you understand? Unless it's, becoming an engineer, I don't know, becoming a heart surgeon. That's very different. And I appreciate all the people who dedicate their lives for that because we do need them. We need that. But that's the real purpose for higher education, is for those things. I'm not quite sure it's for every single one of our children, especially today, especially what's being peddled at these institutions today. Someone said, Oliver, you sound like you had a bad educational experience. No, I had one of the best educational experiences of my life. I went to one of the top prep schools in all of America. I had higher learning up the freaking wazoo. But the educational system today is not what it was for me. You understand? It was very different. We don't have that anymore. And I did not have the internet. I did not have access to anything outside of my mother's libraries, right? What was I interested in back then? Trading. So, guys, my parents raised me from 3 years old to be a professional pianist. That's right. I was raised to be a professional pianist. Swear to God. From 3 years old. My parents invested everything into my piano future. I had the best teachers. I had teachers flying in from Germany. I went to special piano school for the gifted. My life was to be a professional pianist, but I discovered financial markets at the age of 15. And much to the chagrin of my parents, I dropped everything. I dropped piano playing. I was doing tours all over the United States. I played as a kid in Carnegie Hall. I was on my way to being a big pianist in the piano community. My school was dedicated to that. I got sponsored by zillions of organizations. Well, it wasn't just me, this group of special pianists, these special kids, gifted kids. So at the age of 15, when I discovered that our life had changed by my father getting one thing right, and it was big. And I was too young to understand it when it really happened. Well, or maybe I wasn't thinking about it, but our lives changed suddenly at one point in my life. Our cars changed, our house changed, our state changed, our neighborhood changed, my school changed, my clothes changed. We went from living what I consider to be a regular life to living a completely different life. And I never really understood until I got 15 and I discovered that it was because my dad was a gold bug from the 60s. And he had listened to someone from the 60s and had bought an ounce of gold every single week of his life from 1964 all the way to the beginning of the 1980s. Well, I would say the middle of the 1970s, I should say 70, 76, 77, 75, 76. And he did this illegally, but he was given the instructions of how to do this because it wasn't legal at the time to own gold as a citizen. But in the late 1970s, gold took off. The peg of $35 was finally broken in 1974. So we went off the gold standard. Nixon took us off the gold standard, the final step of being off the gold standard, because being off the gold standard happened in stages. But the final stage, the final sever of gold happened on August 15th of 1971, when President Nixon announced that the US would be suspending the convertibility of the dollar into gold temporarily to protect it against the speculators. All right. And that severed the relationship between the dollar and gold, making it a pure 100% fiat currency, which basically means it has value because I say it has value, because I told you so, not because it's backed by anything, just because I told you so. Now, it wasn't until I believe 1974 that the peg of $35, you see, gold was fixed at a price of $35 by the United States for the entire world. Can you imagine that? You think gold is as sound as it is, yet one country decided on the price for decades. It's going to be 35. How do you do that? How does a country decide that gold's going to be this price and not move? It's not as sound as we all thought if a country can do that. Anyway, gold was set for 35. After 1971, I believe it's 1974, that the price control on gold was lifted, and gold took off from $35 an ounce to slightly over $800 an ounce. And our lives changed forever. Went from lower middle class to being an upper middle class family. I discovered this gold play by my dad, which was responsible for changing our entire lives at the age of 15. I finally understood it, looked into it, and realized, like, wait a minute, if my dad can change a family's life forever the way it happened, then what if, and he could do it with one play, what if you could make this your job and you do these plays all the time? Then I discovered there's something called a trader. You can trade the financial market. You can trade gold and trade the financial markets. I was freaking in heaven. And from that moment onward, the only keys that I eventually continued to play were the keys on my computer. Much to the chagrin of my parents, I dropped the piano playing, crushed my mom. My mom, to this very day, will call me up every now and then and say, Oliver, baby, and I know what's coming after baby. I know you're successful and all, but when are you going to go back to playing the piano? Mom, it's like, Mom, I'm not sure, but maybe one day. I keep hope alive for her, you know. But anyway, so from the age of 15, guys, nothing. I have never done anything else with my life, do you understand, except play financial markets. From the age of 15, I'm going to be 60 soon. 60 years old from 15. Never. I never had a plan B. I never had another function. I never had another responsibility. I never had another job. I mean, I worked these 2 to 6 week I had these 2 to 6 week assignments doing accounting work, but for trading, to dump that into my trading account. So I don't even really count that as doing something else. I did it for trading. So I've never done anything else. People ask me all over the world about what I think about this or that. And I have to tell them sometimes, look, dude, I'm just a trader. What are you asking me about politics? I'm just a trader. What are you asking me about this? I'm just a trader. I've never done anything else but play financial markets, you know? And so, um, but I'll tell you this, guys. I have always had a strong sense of history. I don't know where this comes from, but everything from as far back as I can remember, everything I've ever done was with a sense of history. And when I speak to you about generational wealth, that is my sense of history. Like, I just don't want to do something today that doesn't ring somewhere in the future. Why? What's the purpose? What's the purpose of an accomplishment today that doesn't stand alive somewhere in your next generation or the next gen? What's the purpose of that? Like, it's just now and then it goes away. Like, I've always worked with that sense of history, that I want what I'm doing now to be remembered in history. I want it to mean something when you look back on it. I just don't want to dedicate my energy to something that's just fleeting. It's here, okay, now it's gone. Okay, woohoo. So this strong sense of history works so perfectly with Bitcoin because every single time you buy a little bit of Bitcoin, that little bit of Bitcoin is guaranteed to be more valuable by a lot 4 years from this purchase date. And if you buy tomorrow, that new purchase is guaranteed to be more valuable by a lot 4 years from that date you just purchased it. And if you buy the next week and the next quarter, every individual ad will work for your future every 4 years until you die. And then you can pass that life expanding, life giving thing to the next generation and have it continue its 4 year increasing journey forever. As we've never had that. Think of the internet. You know what made me decide, which was not a very easy decision, to leave Wall Street and start my own firm, which was scary. I was doing well. I was going to give up all of that, all the benefits, everything, and start a firm from scratch. That's not easy. With little kids, that's not easy. But you know what made me do it? The fact that commercial internet was going to be legal in 1994. I made my decision in 1993 because there was talk about the internet being legal to be used for commercial purposes. Most of you are not old enough to understand that the internet existed, but you could not use it. Was illegal to use the internet for commerce, to use it for business until 1994. I started my firm in September of 1994. September 11th, actually. Strange date, but yes. September 11th, 1994. Because of the internet. I was one of the first Wall Street firms to have a web page. I've shown that web page to many of you. The first one. I was even advised against putting up a website for my financial firm. In 1995, despite all the advice I got against this, My firm got ranked #1 by Barron's, #1 firm in all of the world to go to for professional financial advice and training in the institutional space. That website got ranked #1 by Barron's in 1998. Why am I telling you this? I have seen what is happening to Bitcoin. I've lived through that already. I've lived through it being something being banned that once was liberated, something being hated, something being eschewed, something that liberated people but was made illegal, that was not politically correct. But then once made legal and once became politically correct, created the world's first $1 trillion assets. The internet brought into existence the world's first $1 trillion assets. No one ever thought $1 trillion asset, $1 trillion company was possible. The internet brought that about. Now, what's really crazy about this is that we were not given the ability to invest in the internet. We were not given an ability to own a piece of the internet. But yet the internet was the fertile ground that brought into existence $3 trillion company Apple, $2 trillion company Microsoft, $1.5 trillion this and $2 trillion that, $1 trillion assets. So if these $1 trillion assets, these $1 trillion mega organizations could never have existed without the internet, then how much is the internet, the protocol that produced them, how much is that worth? Yeah, we can own a piece of Apple, we can own a piece of Microsoft, we can own a piece of Google, but we can't own the base layer of life, the base layer that gave those $1 trillion assets life. We can't own that. Now, Bitcoin, enter Bitcoin. Bitcoin takes over where the internet left off. You see, the internet democratized and digitized photos, books, knowledge, movies, music, knowledge, information. It collapsed all of those to the digital world. Telecommunications, it reduced fax machines to the digital world. It reduced scanners to the digital world. It reduced theaters to the digital world. I know we still have some, but it's more of nostalgia. It's more of nostalgia than a necessity. So much got reduced to the digital world, but what the internet could not do was reduce money to the digital world. Enter Bitcoin, that has now, internet said, I have Bitcoin, I have collapsed everything I possibly could to the digital world. The only thing I couldn't do was money. I'm passing the baton to you. Bitcoin says, I got it. It takes the baton from the internet and says, I am now the internet of money. And so for the first time, we have a protocol that is collapsing the world's value, collapsing money all over the world to the digital world. But the thing that's really different is the fact that we can now own the protocol, not just a company like Coinbase that links into the protocol, not just MicroStrategy that links into the protocol. We're talking about owning the internet itself, owning the base layer. You and I have never had that opportunity in our entire lives. It's like owning Manhattan and then having billionaire real estate moguls build buildings worth billions of dollars on top of Manhattan. But if the building is worth $1 billion, what's the land worth underneath it? The buildings are going to come and go. The land's there forever. The companies are going to come and go, but Bitcoin's forever. The Microsofts and the Apples are going to come and go. The internet's forever. but we weren't allowed to own the internet. Now we can own the internet of the biggest thing in the human experience: value, money, stored time. Dude, there's no time to be distracted by anything else. But Oliver, the meme coin market is hot. Dude, all that is a promise for more paper. This is a promise for owning a piece of the world. You can't compare. That's always gambling is always going to be with us. Dabbling in bullshit is always going to be with us. It's just for some reason the human nature wants bullshit. So you'll never run out of that. You are going to run out of Bitcoin. You are going to run out of the possibility to get one full Bitcoin. You are going to run out of the possibility of getting one half of a Bitcoin for your family, to reward your family every 4 years forever, to build a richer, more independent, more free legacy for your children. You're going to lose out on that. Focused on a meme coin, focused on a stock. I've had these conversations with you before. The average S&P, the average company in the S&P, we're talking about the finest, the wealthiest, the most sophisticated, the most valuable companies in the world. Let me show you. Show you that. Look at this. This is crazy. The average, guys, I'll show you this. Look at the average lifespan of a company on the S&P 500. Do you see that? Let me just make myself smaller. The average lifespan of a company on the Standard & Poor's is 20 years. This is the creme de la creme in the entire world. They have a 20-year life. And I'm saying, and people are fighting me, no, Oliver, I need to bet my whole life on these companies that have an average lifespan of 20 years? Really? No, dude. Let's just put everything that's worth something in the protocol that gives every one of them life, that gives every one of them value. I want to own Manhattan, not just a building in Manhattan, and much less an apartment in a building on Manhattan. Give me Manhattan. I don't want to own MicroStrategy. I want to own what gives life to MicroStrategy. Do you get what I'm saying? MicroStrategy is going to come and go. Look at the lifespan. Bitcoin's not going to come and go. It's a protocol. It's math. Someone's saying like, Oliver, well, how can you say that Bitcoin is, how can you say, Oliver, that Bitcoin is going to be around? I'm like, dude, Bitcoin is maths. That's like asking me, Oliver, how do you know that the mathematical protocol is going to last? 1 + 1 = 2 is not forever, is it? Dude, come on, Bitcoin is maths. It's not going anywhere. Tell me you don't know anything about Bitcoin without screaming it like, whoa, it can't go anywhere. It's math. And, you know, what does lifespan mean? I'm sure that's a language problem. Lifespan means most companies die and exist no more. About the average time they die is after being 20 years old. Now, we know that the average lifespan of a business globally is less than 5 years. We know this The average lifespan of a business period is 5 years. I'm talking about the average lifespan of the best businesses, the S&P 500. Okay, not 5 years, it's 20 years. It's crazy. Somebody say, well, Oliver, you know, real estate is forever. Is it? Is it forever? Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Does this look like real estate's forever? Let me show you something. Please tell me. Does that look like, I gotta move myself. The average lifespan, oh, that's a cat. What am I doing? That's not what I want. All right, I'll change that, guys. Okay, there we go. That's better. And cat lovers out there. The average lifespan of a house. Oh, Oliver, I'm going to leave my house to my children. Yeah, well, 70 to 100. You got 70 to 100 years. So, guys, how old was the house when you bought it? 30 years old, Oliver. Okay. Now you got maximum 70 years. All right. How old is the house? So you bought it when you bought the house when it's 30 years, right? 30 years old. Now, how old is going to be the house when you pass it to your children? I'm going to live in it for at least 40 years. So, dude, now you're at 70 years. You're passing on an asset that's dwindling, that's becoming a senior citizen. Average lifespan of a house is 70 to 100 years. Average lifespan of a building might be as much as 125 years. They come and go. They're transient things. Well, Oliver, what about the land? Well, okay, that's better. But most people don't own the land. Most people's land deed is held by the bank. Oh, I know they say you own it, but let's call a spade, shall we? Okay. Anything that you pay for the rest of your life, you don't own it, buddy. I'm sorry. You don't own it. That's just, you got scammed. You got bamboozled. Oh yeah, you're told that you own it, but yeah, just pay me forever. Yeah, you can say you own it, of course. Yeah, you can say that. You can say it. You can't move it. Most of you can't even do something to your house because of the HMO. Can't do what you really want with the house, some of you. Some of you don't own it because you don't have the papers for it. You're paying not only mortgage, but you're paying taxes forever, and you have no control over what you pay. So arbitrarily, they could just say, oh, the value of your home increased, so now you pay me this forever. It can be taken from you, confiscated by eminent domain. It is losing its utilitarian life every moment of existence because it has a finite lifespan. I'm not saying that you should not have a house or own land. I'm just saying it's not cracked up to what it's been sold. It's been sold a way that it's not really cracked up to be that way. Anything you pay for forever is not yours. I'm telling you. This is how the slaves were tricked. The slaves, I mentioned this before, the slaves, after the Emancipation Proclamation, slaves were let free, and there was an edict to give every free slave a 40 acres and a mule to work the 40 acres. You know what 40 acres of prime land in America in the 1800s? The slaves were given 40 acres and a mule to work the land. And this angered, obviously, all the former slave owners and the business owners and mayors of towns and da 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 da. So what did they do? They all got together and said, no one is going to buy anything from a freed slave that wants to sell the fruits of their labor from this land they got. And so they starved them out. No one would buy anything from them. Now many slaves start to feel like their life as a slave was better. At least they lived in a house. They never had to worry about clothing, never had to worry about food. And now they have to worry about shelter, food. No one's buying from them. They're starving. They're going broke. So what happens? Businessmen show up and say, listen, I've got a proposition for you. If you sign this document, I can have every single thing you produce on this land bought forever. And get this, you can live on the land. It's yours. You can live on the land for life. You can be in business for life because we will buy your fruits and we will buy your corn and we will buy your cabbage and we will buy your strawberries. Whatever it is you do, we're going to buy that for life. Just sign here. Most of these slaves were uneducated, so they didn't know how to write. So the businessmen told them an X will do. And that's where you get these names, Malcolm X and Shabazz X. That was to commemorate one of the biggest thefts in American history, taking 40 acres away from every single freed slave. But they were allowed to live on the land. They were allowed to work on the land. They were allowed to live on the house structure that they built on the land. But was the land really theirs? No. That's not freaking ownership. And so what they had to do, of course, was a portion of everything that they produced on that land went to the real owners, and the rest they could sell. They paid for that land over and over and over and over and over again for the rest of their lives. They were told the land was theirs. They were allowed to be on the land. They were allowed to till the land, make money from the land, but the land really wasn't theirs. That is the real estate market today is exactly the same thing. It is a modern form of sharecropping. You are allowed to stay on the land in the house. You're allowed to say that it's yours. You're allowed to make money from it. If you can get some other fool to buy it from you and take your place, I'll let you make money from the land. But is it really yours if you're paying me forever? No. Modern day, it's the modern form of that. Bitcoin is the only thing in the world that you really own. It's the only thing if you have it in self-custody. You don't own your land. You don't own your house. You don't own anything except Bitcoin today. It's the only thing a human being can own today. In truth, ownership at its core, it's the only thing that no one can take. It's the only thing that no one can confiscate. It's the only thing that no one can debase, inflate, control, halt, stop, hack. The only thing on earth. Everything else can be taken from you. Everything else is controlled by another man. The only thing that is not controlled by a single human being, organization, institution, or nation state on earth is Bitcoin. Watch them tax Bitcoin eventually. Maybe. I actually think it's going to go the other way. I believe, and I posted this today, I believe that next cycle, which is the next presidential election, that there will be a president running for president in the United States that will run on a no tax Bitcoin platform. You heard it here first. Mark my words. There's going to be a candidate running for the presidency of the United States. One of the talking points, one of the platform promises will be no taxes on Bitcoin. And that person's going to win. I think the future is no taxes, not the other way. And certainly now, not taxes on unrealized. So you know my stance. What are you selling it for? You don't have a tax problem. What are you freaking selling it for? What are you selling the most valuable thing on planet Earth for? What are you selling the scarcest thing on planet Earth for? What are you selling the hardest money, the hardest asset that humans have ever had access to? What are you selling it for? In short order, Bitcoin will be the most valuable thing on planet Earth outside of gold. Next year, mark my words, it's going to be the most valuable thing on planet Earth. What do you sell the most valuable thing on Earth for? The 17th, the 20th, the 212th thing? What do you do? What do you sell number one for? You don't. You borrow against number one. You don't ever get rid of number one, because if you get rid of number one, you may not get it back. Fred, I appreciate that. Wow, mind-blowing stuff. I appreciate that. Thank you. True, our family farm was forced to be sold, but family has not been paid. Crazy. Guys, theft is at the core of has been at the core of property ownership throughout the ages. For time immemorial, land has been stolen, taken, wars, shady business negotiations and dealings. Look at America, stolen, right? That's no secret anymore, is it? Stolen. America was stolen. Oh, we discovered America, but there's millions of people here. What do you mean you discovered it? Oh, it's ours now. Stolen. This is the first time we have property and property rights that cannot be stolen, cannot be taken, cannot be hacked, cannot be debased, inflated away, turned off, denied, banned. You can't ban Bitcoin. You can ban yourself from Bitcoin, but you cannot ban Bitcoin. And some people say, well, Oliver, I just can't touch it like my house, my property. I can't touch it. I'm having a hard time finding out what's the value and where is it? I said, well, do you think that math is valuable? That's what I ask them. Do you think that math is valuable? They say, well, of course. Can it be argued that kind of math runs the world, the universe? Well, yeah, it's at the core of everything. So where is maths? Just don't answer that. Then I go say, let's take the number one. Where is it? I show it to me. I want to see it. I want to see it in your hand. I want to see the number one. And where is that thing? All right, let's take the equation 1 + 1 = 2. Is that true? Yes. Does that have value? Yes. Show it to me. Where is it? What location does it reside at? I want to touch it like Doubting Thomas, and I want to feel it physically with my hands. 1 + 1 = 2. I know it's real. I know 1 + 1 = 2 has value, but I can't see it. I can't feel it. I can't taste it. I can't see it. It has no physical location, no physical reality. Yet It runs the freaking world, the whole universe. And you're telling me you have a problem because you can't do that with Bitcoin? Bitcoin is maths, bro. Of course you can't. I also go on to say this. I know I'm ranting now, guys. I'm sorry. I'm ranting. I can't help it. I also go on to say this. It is primitive to demand that something be physical today. That's right, primitive. But Oliver, it's not physical. I can't touch. That is primitive. Let me tell you why. There was a time when all of our gods were physical. We worshiped things like the mountain. We worshiped things like statues. We worshiped monuments. We worshiped strange things in the sky. We worshiped the freaking moon. We worshiped rain. We did rain dances and worshiped rain. Today, the vast majority of the human race who believes in a higher power, believes in a higher power that they can't see, touch, feel, taste in the traditional physical way, but yet they know it's real. To require that God be physical today is to be primitive. Some of the things that we today will die for, some of the things that hold the highest value in the human experience today, things that we will give our life for, none of them are physical. Love, show me. Love. You can show me an act of love, but show me love itself. Show me where it comes from. Show me its origin point. Show me where it resides right now. I want to go there and touch it and feel it. I want to hug it. Show me love. You can't. It does not reside in the physical world. Yet we all know that it's not only valuable, probably the most valuable thing in all of life. We will die. Some people die for it, having never been able to touch it, feel it. Honesty, justice, peace, decency, freedom. These are the things that reside beyond our physical ability to handle them with the senses. It can't be that special if it can be reduced to my five senses. It is what is beyond my five senses that becomes ultra special. And that is Bitcoin. That is love. That is freedom. That is hope. These are the things that are grander than my eyes, my touch, my taste, my touch, my my hearing. You get the point. These are all silly things that we say about we can't see the subatomic particles that make up everything in existence, yet they're real as day, real as anything else, more real than what you see. What you see is not real. What you feel is not real. Bitcoin is king. Teach the truth, boss. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So, wow, what an amazing time to be alive, no? Like, why were we chosen to be alive now? I mean, it's crazy. And it's crazy that not more people understand or see the opportunity that we have. We will be read about. We will be studied. You and I will be the subject for centuries. The people who had the ability to trade government paper for the most valuable thing on earth. There is going to come a time where no one's going to accept your dirty government paper that's guaranteed to be less every single second you hold it, while this is guaranteed to be more valuable every single time you hold it. Why would anyone make that trade once they understand? Why? Why would I give you the most valuable thing in the world that is guaranteed to become more valuable every 4 years forever for the thing that goes down in value every single second I hold it? Who is going to make that trade in 15 years? No one. You think you're going to be able to buy Bitcoin anytime you want to? You still don't get it. No one's going to sell Bitcoin in the future. No one. Zero. I know some people say, Oliver, now you're going too far. Am I? Am I? Let me give you an example of this, and then I'm going to let you go. There's 8.25 billion people estimated living on planet Earth today. Every day, net of deaths, that number increases by 250,000 human beings. Do you understand? Every day, the human race grows by net. It grows, more births happen, but net of deaths, we have a positive surplus of human beings born every single day. And that number is estimated at around 250,000 new human beings a day. So we not only have 8.25 billion people already born, today, 250,000 more are born. 250,000 more people breathing air, 250,000 more future car purchasers, airline travelers, 250,000 new computer buyers, smartphone users, 250,000 new Bitcoiners every day. Now listen, okay? What if there were only 21 million homes on planet Earth for 8.2 billion people? That's actually increasing by 250,000 new people a day. 21 million homes. Now, what if you were one of the very special families on planet Earth that happened to have one? Do you think that you or anyone else would ever sell the home? Because everyone else doesn't have a home. Everyone is homeless except you and 21 million other people, other families. Would any family ever sell? No. Do you know why? Because they will be homeless for time, for eternity after that. They would never get a home again. Never. That's Bitcoin. When the world understands this, everyone's going to be clamoring for one. And if you ever let it go, you will never, ever. I told you my mom used to tell me all the time, Oliver, stop it. Never say never, Oliver. I said, Mom, you said never. He's like, stop it. You know what I mean, boy. Never say never, Oliver, because you never know. All right. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm saying never. These people I'm talking to, Mom, one day will never be able to buy Bitcoin again. And if they ever sell what they have, they'll never get it back. And we're working with 21 million. And that's not even the number. The number is way less than 21 million. You can take all the lost Bitcoin out of that number. You can take all the Bitcoin I have out of that number. I'm not the only one. You can take all the Bitcoin that is lost every single day. out of that number, and you can take what's called dust Bitcoin that happens every single day outside of that number. Bitcoin is literally shrinking from 21 million to something like 13 million. There's 60,000 millionaires in the world today. I mean, 60 million millionaires in the world today and growing. And there's 13 million Bitcoin. It's even less than that. You can look at the Bitcoin that is available on exchange as being the true availability. That's less than 2 million Bitcoin. It's just that we're early and the world hasn't finally woken up to the fact that I'm homeless without Bitcoin. And when they do, and they will, when they do, people are going to scramble for a home Bitcoin, and they're never going to let it go because they know that this life-giving thing every 4 years makes me wealthier, I own a piece of the world with this. It's going to reward me forever. To give it up, I will never get it back. And to give it up for what? For what would you give it up for? All right, appreciate that. My mentor for life. I love it. Whoa, $20? You know where that's going. Satoshis. Thank you very much, Joel. You really don't have to do that, but thank you. I truly appreciate that. So the Bitcoin is a store of value, like gold, because central banks keep printing. Bitcoin is in the store of value stage of its evolutionary journey. We've talked about this ad nauseum, actually. And so monies go through a 4-stage process if they are ever to become fully sound, full-fledged money. And that is 4 stages: collectible, store value, medium of exchange, then unit of account. Now, everyone thinks that money is a medium of exchange. That's the 3rd stage. If a money hasn't spent an inordinate amount of time as a store of value, then the medium of exchange is fake. It's a fugazi. It's forced on you as a medium of exchange. The US dollar is not by choice. It's because you're freaking born here. You're a slave born on a plantation called the United States, and you must spend your entire life working for the plantation's coupon called the dollar. Now, other plantations have other coupons, but this is your coupon. But why must I work for the dollar? Because you were born here like a slave. Your slave parents had to work for this coupon. Now they had your slave ass, and now your slave ass has to work for our coupon too. And get this, we're going to make sure that every year you work harder than you worked last year because the coupon's going to be worth less. The eggs are going to be worth more. So you're going to have to spend more time than last year to buy 12 eggs. The loaf of bread you bought last year that cost you 15 minutes of your life to buy a loaf of bread, now that's going to cost you 30 minutes of your life. Same loaf of bread, you're just going to have to give me more of your life. Every year, I'm going to squeeze more of your life out of you. And this will be your plight simply because you were born on my plantation. You have no choice. You don't have another option. You are locked in. You are a slave. Now go out and give me your life for my piece of paper, and I will debase it on you every single year of your life and make your life harder every year until you die. But have another slave so that we can continue this charade. Bitcoin is freedom from this, people. Bitcoin goes the opposite way. Bitcoin says every time you commit to me, I will make you higher every 4 years of your life forever. It's crazy, right? It's wild. I like that. That's right. Bitcoin is the only thing that doesn't belong to the plantation owners. Everything else does. Everything. Some of you say, Oliver, I own Microsoft stock. Well, where is it? Do you really own it? Oh, it shows up on my digital screen. Well, but you understand that is real, but Bitcoin's not real? Who says you really own it? Who says that? Who says it's just not digits floating around on a screen? You give your money to it, but did you actually see what happened to the money? Did you see where it went? Was a purchase really made, or did a digit just show up? When you put your money in the bank, is it really there? No. But Oliver, I can see it on my screen. But is it real though? Who's it controlled by? Do you have to seek permission? Yeah, I go to the ATM, but can you take out $20,000 at 1 a.m. in the morning? No, I'm limited to 500 a day. So is that yours? Can someone really tell you what to do with something that's yours? It's all a farce. It's a fugazi. All of it. The only thing that's yours is Bitcoin in cold storage, in self-custody. That's the only thing that's yours. It's with you. How does someone take 12 words from you? How does someone take words? How does someone ban letters, numbers? From this day forward, the letter B shall be outlawed because it stands for Bitcoin. No human is to use the letter B. It can't be freaking banned, stopped, anything. Well, Oliver, what if they confiscated like gold? They confiscated gold, 6102. Dude, 99% of the gold was already in banks being custodied. That was just a formality. They didn't have to go door to door. 6102 can't happen with Bitcoin. Because how do you take 12 words? How do you confiscate that? You can't. It's a bearer asset that if someone else has the 12 words, you don't even have it anymore. How crazy is that? You pass the 12 words to your daughter. Now, I don't have the Bitcoin. You are your Bitcoin. Final point here. For the first time, Bitcoin is your word. For the first time, you stand on your word. For the first time, your word finally freaking means something. For the first time, your word is your bond. Your word is your Bitcoin. And no human being can ever touch it except you, can ever take it except you. No human being can halt it. No one can stop it from rewarding you, from delivering its promise to you. No one can ban it. No one can inflate it away, debase it away without your permission. No one can have it except you. For the first time, your word is truly your bond, your value, your magnificent wealth, your word. Those 12 to 24 words, everything. All right, guys. That's my Bitcoin talk today. Man, I kept you guys a long time today. How long did I talk here? How long is this? Shoot. 2 hours and 15 minutes. Holy moly. I apologize. I got carried away. All right. All right, guys. I love you to death. Thank you very much for showing up. 22,154 people here. Wow. Amazing. I am blown away. Thank you very much for your generosity. I'll see you next time. You know what to do, guys. Go to work. Go to work. Boom. Boom. All right. Ciao. Yeah.